Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong speech.
Some of the best times of my life was seeing him work in ER when I backed that ambulance up, because if we had something bad, and when he come to the door, he always met us at the door. And when he came to the door, my mind went to ease, because I knew that the patient was going to be okay. Especially one time when I was the patient. And Jack said, "Who is this guy?" "Oh, that's Gerald." I was having a severe case of anaphylactic shock. And he said, "Whoa, don't treat him till I get pictures." Right? He ain't gonna die that fast, but we're gonna get some pictures. "Jack, I'm dying, I can't breathe." So after the pictures and the steroid injections and all the epi and everything else, and I was vibrating like a kid on Mountain Dew and chocolate bars, he said, "I think you'll be all right. If not, just call me." And I said, "What if I die?" He said, "Sharon will call me."
And I'm proud to say that not only has Jack been my doctor, but I've been his lawyer on a couple of occasions. The first time Jack came to see me about a legal matter, he said, "Dan, how do you charge?" I said, "I charge by the question. What's your second question?"
Jack's daughter-in-law, I just want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I put having a roast, inviting an in-law is like handing a box of matches to a 7-year-old little boy. But I don't have to tell you anything bad about a man that I feel honored to call Dad. I do have a funny story, though. One time when my husband and I were visiting, I had a bad headache. So I asked Jack for aspirin. He disappeared for about 20 minutes, and he came back later. They do have 3 bathrooms, by the way, in their house. And he says, "Can you believe I don't have any aspirin in a doctor's house?" So I didn't get any aspirin.
People do not know how resourceful and penetrating Jack Cahn's diagnostic abilities could be. One time a guy came to him who had not been able to get a job laying tile. No one wanted to hire a guy who could not get a piece of bathroom tile to hang on the wall. So he's like, "Look here, Doc," the poor man said earnestly, "they can't tell me why my grout is not working. I mix it just like they say. I put it on the wall like they say. It just falls to the floor and shatters in a million pieces." Cahn wrote the guy a prescription for Viagra. Then 2 weeks later, he sees the guy down at Trojan Village. "How's the tile business going?" asked Jack. He said, "Can't keep it up," replied the man. "Everything works now, but I got a question. How'd you know Viagra would do it?" Jack responds, "Elementary," replied unparalleled Cahn. "You were suffering from erectile dysfunction." That was funny. That was funny. All right.
Decided to take up the banjo. He became more than an adequate player, but really, most importantly, he was appreciated as the butt of all of our banjo jokes. Some banjo jokes were like, "How do you tell that a banjo player is sitting on level ground? He's drooling out both sides of his mouth." "What's perfect pitch for a banjo? You throw it hard at the dumpster. It hits nothing but air." "And how can you tell the difference between one banjo tune and another? By the title." Some venues were wonderful and some were not. But on one particular outing, we were performing in a large setting for several hundred people. I think it was in Salisbury for their Founders' Day celebration. In the middle of a set, I broke a guitar string. And while I rushed to repair the string, the stage was absolutely silent. And Sylvia whispered, "Somebody tell a joke." Jack didn't miss a beat. He headed right up to the microphone and began. "A guy came home early from work one day." His surprised wife questioned, "What's going on?" To which he replied, "I got fired." The wife asks, "Why?" The man said, "I got my And here's where the story gets a little interesting. You'd think a physician would have a greater command of euphemism for body parts, but Jack just forged ahead. He said, the poor husband said, I got caught with my, it rhymes with stick, stuck in the pickle slicer. The wife cried, oh no, were you hurt? Nah, said the husband. Then the wife said, but what happened to the pickle slicer? She got fired too. Now wait, you guys are far more naughty than that audience was. This was in the middle of an amphitheater in Salisbury, and it was deadly silent after that. Totally silent. Well, we nervously finished the set. You remember that? And when we got off stage, everybody in the group turned around and said, Jack, how can you tell that joke and use that language? And he replied, startled, well, I couldn't say penis. There were children in the audience. That was our
I'd like
Jack.
to share occurred shortly after the devastation of 9/11. Jack's sister Elaine was flying in for a visit, and Rod asked Jack when he was leaving to pick her up at the airport. Jack said, I'm not going, someone else is driving down there for me. And Rod said, Jack, that's pretty damn crummy not even to pick up your own sister. And Jack said, look at me. We did. Let's face it, if you were a TSA or Homeland Security guy, could you tell which one is Osama bin Laden? I can. The hat gives him away, and the fiddle.
But when I first met Jack, I absolutely could not stand him. I was not used to men making remarks about women, especially nurses, the way he did. I mean, I was just taken back. He thought I was the biggest bitch that walked, and he would walk wide berths around me just so he wouldn't have to get near me. I went to his office one day because I was sick. I had a sinus infection. And I was in the exam room, and I told him, I said, it feels like my teeth are moving. It hurts so bad. And he said, well, maybe they are. Well, that just pissed me off. So I got up and left. Well, I was working at Dr. Kovachik's office, and Jack called over one day. And I was the receptionist, and the first thing he said to me was, what color underwear are you wearing? And that's why I didn't like him. So I thought I'd get him back, and I said, I'm not wearing any. Well, that started our relationship.
The band Applewood, which the photo has been passed around, was a real inspiration for a lot of us. I was in a band called the Courthouse Ramblers, which was together for over 20 years. And we were sort of sacrilege. We played bluegrass and old-time music mixed together. And Applewood was always a real together group. They were good musicians. They had great harmonies. We were terrible musicians. we were all, but we had stage presence. So the Courthouse Ramblers were good for a bunch of laughs.
The other thing most of you know is that he thinks of himself as a genius.
Think of myself.
The first computer he got, my sister and I, while we were in high school, one of those monochrome computers, you know, the old dinosaur ones. Nick, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But I was messing around on it, and I don't know where you had put it. I don't know how I came across it. But there was a file that had the sentence, "Her dad is a genius."
I think that was the screensaver.
Somewhere on the computer. But if you were such a genius, you wouldn't have gotten married the first time, much less the second time. You wouldn't have had kids, or at least only me.
I didn't know any of you.
You would have retired sooner if you were a genius. And you wouldn't have agreed to a roast.
I have a secret weapon with me. I have to get in uniform. There we go.
For those of you who know anything about honeybees, there's a few things bees don't like. They don't like hairspray, they don't like deodorant, and they don't like aftershave lotion. The thing they dislike the most is duct tape, the adhesive. Well, here these bees are. Now, they're really pissed off anyway. So Jack gets his trusty roll of duct tape out and starts taping these holes up in this rotten wood. Well, they are really mad. And we finally get them on the pickup. And for those of you who remember Jack having an old black Chevrolet pickup. Okay, we come up 18, get to the courthouse, and turn away. Well, half of the hide fell off. So now we've got the town contaminated with all these pissed off things.
It was a night, you know.
It was a night.
Nobody's inspired at night.
Probably 12 o'clock or something.
Yeah, it was
That was a lot of fun. Jack, thank you.
Well, for Patty as she came down the aisle, which is the piece that won me 9th place at Galax. $50. First medal I ever got at Galax. Yes, they did change the rule. But they also changed another rule that goes to the courthouse ramblers. And that is, they had a musician, Mark Rose, who played the washtub bass or the stand-up bass, either one, very well, very talented musician. But he also liked to toot the hose. He had a trumpet, trombone, probably a trumpet mouthpiece. Yeah. And he put in a garden hose, about 6 foot length. And you can really make some interesting tunes with this instrument. And one of the pieces that they performed on stage, he pulled out and played this instrument. So the audience went crazy. I mean, and the audience at Galax is thousands, just 5,000, 4,000 people out there. And man, if you want to get an adrenaline rush, you walk out on the stage in front of that many people and try and do something precise. It doesn't work. I've been there, I've done that. But so the next year it said only stringed instruments will be allowed in competition. So what he had to do was he had to put his hose instrument up inside his wash tub. And so they were playing, and he picks up his wash tub and pulls out his horn and starts tooting away, and the fans are going crazy and everything. So I like to think that, the local musicians have had some influence on the Galax Fiddlers Convention. And Burr showed that picture of me at the airport. looking like Osama, but the original person who posted that in the doctor's lounge, the cover of Time magazine, had a picture of Osama before he was, really famous. When he was just sort of, who is this guy and do we need to worry about him? Seriously, Time magazine. And one of my dear friends took that cover, tore it off, stuck that picture up on my chart box there and said, "Have you seen this man?" and that friend was John Kovacic. Folks, he has been quiet tonight because he knows 185 stories about me, and he didn't want to have to tell them all. But I love John Kovacic as my brother. We started here almost the same time. We're retiring almost the same time. He's slowing down anyhow. He is one of the finest doctors you'll ever have the fortune of knowing. He lacks my ability to make people laugh, but that's not entirely true. But I don't think he uses humor as a method.
That is good.